The whole world and each and every section of the universal action is based on result orientation. The cause and the effect, this cultivation of activities and harvesting the benefits is the purpose of innumerable spheres of human life, whether it is interpersonal, personal, or intrapersonal or universal. Regarding our health, our social stability and amicability, in professional success, in academic excellence, in executive precision, in competitive gaining, and all-round promotion that we expect in each and every moving of our life is based on the result orientation. And whenever there is a problem that improportionately lies between the cultivation along with the time, energy and risk involved, which becomes unjustifiable with the harvest that we get. Most of the people, they have innumerable problems in each and every facet of life for which they want a solution. And seeking a solution is slightly different from qualifying one's own self for a solution mechanism and arriving at a side effect free solution or universal non-stop solution or one-stop ultimate solution. Innumerable people, they are seeking a lot of solutions. And one more thing which we want to add here is most of the problems, they have solution within themselves, and most of the solutions that are apparently appearing to be solutions are problem generating. The two major rules of problematic designing and problem mechanics, they say that problems they have, the same problems have the inbuilt incorporation of the problems. He will get into the problematic binding or the murky entanglement by which the person is debilitated, weakened to a greater way. And the same thing, if it is taken as a challenge, personal challenge to be handled, whenever a person gets into scrutiny or introspective vision of the problems by means of number one, whenever there is a problem, just for 5 to 10 minutes, don't think about the problem, unless it is very emergent. If somebody is going to fall inside a well, at that time you should not follow my injunction that you should wait 5 to 10 minutes to think whether to save them or not. So, problems are of three types. One is remote, futuristic or long term. Second is short term, in which we are just starting the journey. Third thing is emergency. What I want to say is, at the time of emergency, you cannot learn any techniques at all. There is no such technique which can qualify you at the time of your emergency. So, considering each and every moment of your life as emergent, or the time that has been dedicated for you to develop an emergency engineering mechanism like safety engineering, how to make our emergent engineering in our lives. So considering that we should be having an ever readiness or ever prepared status that anything can come to any person at any time of any level is the understanding of safety mechanism in life. So any person at the time of their casual existence, at the time of their independent status, at the time of their rest, now whatever we call as rest, relaxation, comfort, convenience, luxury, they are meant for rejoicement. It is not so. Just as you are having vacation holidays or study holidays for enriching your knowledge, to add your performance in the examinations, most of the so-called recreative occasions and dimensions of human life is meant for enrichment of their emergency marketing and emergency handling and engineering. So each and every second, apart from thinking of what you want today, you should also simultaneously balance your caliber in its application to think about what you want for tomorrow, the next year, in the near future and in the remote future. So the life is a triangular conglomeration of what you want immediate, what you want mediate and what is your remote aim. So emergency is not a provision for any of your learning, because most of the people, they are having a coercive methodology of learning or memorizing and presentation at the time of examinations, which is nothing but an emergency adoption. And this is very nutritious to exam success maybe, but injurious to long-term physiobiological as well as neurobiological health. And the input and impact of any person's presentation with executive skill will also be faded in future. So what we want to know here today to understand is, whenever there is a problem, the same dimension of your mind which is worrying about the problem has one more hidden dimension within it, that is known as solution mechanism. So you are not only an isolated person who are going to be very much tortured by the problems alone. You are a bivalent mechanism, you are a bivalent organism in which the intellectual or prudent portion of your mind deals with the solution mechanics, and the emotional and peripheral system deals with the problems and their impact. So it is the duty of each and every teacher. Nobody need to indulge into the process of instigating the biological nature of children or any other members in the society. Naturally, being afraid of the problems, being tempted by the problematic environments, getting into frustration, anxiety, palpitation, as well as all other annexures of the problem impact into your mind, intellect and body. These things never require tuition or special training. They are naturally available with human mind. They are naturally available with human environment. What the teachers, what the parents should teach, before which they have to train themselves to be qualified people to teach others, what they have to impart with the other members of the dependent society is, number one, how to kindle and arouse the hidden dimension of solution mechanism which is very inside the person by means of the inspiration. And what is that dealing with? Number one, whenever you are not neutralized, whenever you, the first exercise of human mind is neutralization. And whenever you go for this neutralization, you are put in a balanced mind by which you can think about the problem. And second thing is self-suggestion or auto-suggestion. If you have met similar programs, if you have made any other attempts for these type of problems and their solutions, if you have heard from any other people or experience, you can try to utilize it and customize it for this problem. That is auto-suggestion. And third thing is external branching. What is external branching? It is to seek for somebody's guidance or association. And fourth thing is repetitive trial and exercise by means of inner contemplation. Fifth thing is gradual and systematic application. Sixth thing is solution. It is automatically inside. You have to only bring it out. And that type of solution mechanism or the power of Nivarana, what we call in Sanskrit, is very much inside. And this is secreted by Medha. So we are going to give three techniques. One is by mere mental exercises, how to bring this potency. Second thing is by intellectual practice, how we can get that. Third is, as we are having a strong supportive belief in spiritual realization, as well as the idea of spiritual practices for our self-development in all areas, all walks of life, we can also suggest you spiritual ways which can be incorporated with your hard work and proper intellectual gymnastics. So here, I have already explained that the solution is within you. And it needs an external instigation so that you can realize it, relish it and activate it in such a manner so that you can infallibly end in the tremendous success. And basically I have already told, result orientation is the purpose of each and everybody. And people, they could not go for the results because of three reasons. One is the inceptive obstacle wherein they could not get any interest at all. Endeavor's interest is there. There are two types of interest. One is the risk interest, second is the reward interest. Most of the people, they are very much attuned to their reward evaluation. They want certifications, they want marks, or they want great medals and great recognition from the society. They want sophisticated business, they want earning, they want luxury, they want repute in the society. So the rewards that they are very much interested in getting, the equivalent and equipotential diversion towards the risks which comfortably provide you that result is not there. So the risk attention for all people, it is not only pertaining to somebody in school or somebody in office, somebody in India, somebody in Africa and America. Even in spite of variation in developments and status in various countries, most of the modern day humans, because of that dilution, the cultural dilapidation, as well as the diversion into various other media. Now, before 2 or 3 decades, we didn't have a lot of these diversions. We have only option between the home as well as the school, or to temple or something else, or a limited place that we can do within our limited proximity or vicinity within the street or such. Now the universe has shrunk that everybody is having 1,000 diversions and only one motivation. The motivated direction is only one. It is just between the population proportion of the Pandavas and Kauravas. Not only quantitatively, qualitatively also the diversion agents are very powerful, hyperpotential than that of our attraction agents. So if education is the only aim for you to learn, innumerable diversions are there in the form of media, in the form of entertainment, in the form of rest, relaxation, parental negligence, academic negligence, non-cooperation. The present trend limits the potentiality of a master to impart and inscribe as well as to imprint something inside the children. The level of approach is there. We have heard before a few decades that the children will be submitted or surrendered to the masters. Sir, we don't want anything to hear from you except to repatriate my son towards the realm of knowledge and to make him a complete man. Now, there is a new session that is rising in the conflict zone, like teachers' inclusion or academic rigidity. You should not control my child, you should not ask this, you should not do all of these things. Like that, there is a very great problem between academic restraint as well as academic activism. Academic activism means that of torturous punishments, cruelty, various things also exist. But now it has resulted in an unhealthy rigidity or restraint by which even a normal, healthy, reasonable inclusion to life are prevented. What is the right or what is the proportionate potentiality of a teacher to inspire or to influence a child, number one? What is the time available? For example, there is one great research that we administered in an academic campus to move extracurricular and extra academic imprints which are to be associated for the child for progress. One is characteristic inculcation. Second is empowerment. And the third thing is having a complete sector of development of a child by means of sports, by means of yoga, by means of languages, by means of operative training in machines and specialities are there. So if the already existing syllabus is a burden for the teachers to teach and students to learn, how far they can spend some time in reasonably incorporating the other accessories to make the child a common man, or even not a complete man, at least a common man suitable to a socialized life in the modern trend. How they can be capable of doing that? That's a very major great problem. So whenever we have more anatomy as well as autonomy, if you understand the inner structure of education and also how to make, for example, in interior decoration, they say as space management, space saving, and space decency and space decorum they are saying in interior decorations. Likewise, education is also a process of interior decoration. The interior decoration of a person's intellect, caliber, acumen, perspicacity, and a person's inner will of a spiritual urge is known as education. There also there should be space management. If proper space is managed, they can teach effectively the same knowledge system that exists now in 1/10 of the time frame that is allotted for teaching. So that they can very much sophisticatedly they can contribute more towards other accessorial development of the complete structure of the child. So unless you have anatomy, understanding of the interiors of the children, second thing is autonomy. If you have your own decision making, for example, I can make my own timing here, I can make my own system here, ideology I can make, methodology I can make, or let that be the government CBSE syllabus, but the methodology of imparting the knowledge, let me take my own chance, and a fusion of tradition with modern technicality can be important for the children for the development. Like that, there should be some sort of liberty inside the institution as well as the willingness to hear and impart all of these things. So it is not only understanding by language or understanding by contextual richness or logical pursuit, it is understanding by its pragmatic application within our premises. I feel that it may be more here, more conducive enough to practice because of the will as well as the breeze of liberty that you can get by framing methodologies as per tradition, as per the concern towards the futuristic sculpting of the children as a very ideal and exemplary model suitable for the challenges, risks and various other progresses that we are facing in the society in future. And to start with, I've already told the lack of interest is the primary difficulty. If somebody is not having the interest, how to sweeten the knowledge and produce before them? How to project ourselves as media icons or sport icons or anybody worthy of attraction? Apart from the compulsion, apart from the environmental imitation and inhibition, what is environmental inhibition? We are inside the school, so we have to respect and think about the teacher. Everybody is standing up, we have to stand up, that is imitation. So we are having an environmental inhibition and imitation more than that of our own natural proclivity. How to convert? A teacher is having three great duties, I used to say. One is the structuralization of syllabus. The syllabus is unstructured. The syllabus is constructively that is being structuralized by the persons who are framing the syllabus, but they have not been structured in such a conducive way so that the children can casually adopt it. So, a teacher is meant for three things. One is structuralization. How to present that particular syllabus or subject or chapter in such a way that the children can feel that it is closer to them, it is needed by them, it is liked by them, it is belonged to them, so that voluntarily they will go for reading. The second thing is simplification. No doubt, each and everybody is having interest to study, but because of previous experience or because of collective linkage with what they have learned in the yesteryears, anything that appears in the new year, even though they have read before, appears to be Hellenistic or Greek and Latin. Because of the lack of nature in correlating or combining or fusion of the primitive storage or the previous storage of the conceptual potential with that of the contemporary as well as futuristic views. There is something known as connectivity. It is known as cognitive connectivity. If somebody has completed the PUC, the pre-university study, somebody they have the higher secondary they have completed successfully, then they have half read the syllabus to graduation because all the fundamentals have been given already. But still, whenever a person goes there, he becomes fresh as a newborn baby, except having literacy to read and write, not having any educational qualification to understand what they have read. Because of this logical, contextual and conceptual connectivity of what we have read and what we are reading and what we are about to read, the person's memory is not so organized. It is not so integrated in such a manner that they can use it at any time on any task. This is the primary problem. So first is lack of interest, I have already told. For lack of interest, the only reason is there should be a driver between the teachers as well as the students. A teacher is a person who can have the power of simplification of the stuff, structuralization of the stuff and sweetening of the stuff. Naturally, you know that education cannot be as sportive as sports or entertainment, but certainly it is the duty of the teacher to bring out this sweetness from the education and see that the children can relish and rejoice it instead of considering it as a punishment and risk. So that lies in the exercises that are specially attuned and practiced and exhibited by teachers, which we are going to hint within the prescribed time, within the possible mode. And all of these basic problems are coming out of continuity, lack of continuity, I have already told, which is the primary force which is maintaining the continuity. For example, somebody is studying today, somebody who can exhibit something cannot exhibit the same thing in the examination. And somebody professionally he fails, somebody fails competitively, somebody fails in progress. So academic failure is a person could not pass. Professional failure is most of the people are having professional failure rather than academic failure. Whatever they have read, they could not do. Any electrical engineer, 100 people if you select, more than 10 people at least, they will be able to deal with some basic connections of electric wiring at least, domestic connections, not with hyper transformers and semiconductors. Mere domestic connectivity will be known to a maximum of only 10 people. They don't know what is transformer, conductor, interface, integrated circuit, etc. because of professional failure. So academic failure is entirely different, and such people coming from profession, they fail. The third thing is, even if professionally they are successful, competitive success will not be there. Comparing to the other people, they cannot do. Lots of people are like that. They have lost their efficiency in like that. And also, even if competitively they success, innovatively most of the people could not success. So, for all of these four stages, academic failure, professional failure, competitive failure and innovative failure. So whatever these students, they are going to carry now, a special tool or a weapon that is required in these 4 stages. Now if you pass in the examination, you have to pass in your professional status also. Then whenever in a growing world, there will be thousands of people to replace you, then you will be jobless, hopeless, mean and baseless in life. At that time, to cope up, you should have the same tool which we are going to design today. And also, apart from your excellence in all other things, unless you are innovative, you will be outdated in the prospering world, which is facing a lot of invention and interventions in each and every zone and way of life. So these 4 things are to be governed, for which you want is progressive continuity. If somebody can ask a question, Swamiji, you are telling a lot of things, what you want us to get? What is the thing we want? If somebody is saying that I am getting giddiness and I am getting very thirsty and I am very much suffering, my mouth is dry, my feet are debilitated, my hands are very much tottering and trembling. If everybody is saying that, then the answer is simple. You are hungry and you want food. Like then what do you want? What is the single terminology for that? We want progressive continuity. And which is the skill or which is the God-given instinct inside us which processes this progressive continuity? It is known as memory. So memory is the basic instinct of human caliber or human cognition, which is developed by mind and which is processed by brain and which is nourished by exposure and experience and which is experienced most by your performance as physician. That is known as memory. So memory is the basic jewel of knowledge, basic ornament of wisdom or the vital inner spirit of each and every function of human life. And you should not say that we don't have memory. We have a lot of memory and memory has 3 problems. The one is, whenever you see somebody today in human life or in any life, there should be a pattern for continuous existence of life. There should be a proper pattern of life. For example, if I am identifying something as my food, as my enemy, as my nourisher, or as my destroyer, or anything whatever I have identified by my cognitive experience, that should be stored inside. That should be stored inside. And whenever I need the same thing in a similar environment or inferential environment, the same energy that has gone inside as a rescuer. So cognition is the first instinct of human mind and recognition is known as the second instinct. So how memory is constructed, you should understand about the memory, then only we can understand about memory developing techniques. Whenever you see something or whenever you perceive anything by your senses like your taste, smell, etc., you get cognition. And whenever you are having a cognitive experience, it is recorded in the endoetheric reticulum. What is endoetheric reticulum? You are having a broader space here like a CD, like a blackboard, like whatever the things that you use for inscription or writing, the same thing is there in the form of infinity inside your mind, which is processed by your brain. So you can write lot of things. So somebody asks, what is the hope of knowledge? The hope of knowledge is number 1, you are born with knowledge. There may be hindrances to realize your knowledgeability, but you are born with knowledge as the first hope. Second is the brain potential, wherein by you can accommodate the whole world's publications in 0.001% of your brain. Whole world publications of any titles in any language with any faculty or discipline. That is the second hope. Third hope is the mind potential. If you really want it to happen with a strong determination, it will happen. So whenever anybody comes to memory, whether it is a kindergarten memory or it is a Nobel laureate's memory, or it is a scientist's memory or a simpleton's memory that deals with three hopes, wherein by we are basically knowledgeable, born for acquiring knowledge. And second thing is unlimited space that we are possessing. We are considering about disk space, we are considering about board space, we are considering about the broad space, we are considering about the satellite space, etc. More than that, we have infinite space inside. Third is the willpower of the mind. If you strongly have the willingness to get, you can get what you want. With these 3 hopes, you have to start the memory exercise. And more than the exercises, the hope with the exercises and our sincerity is giving more marks. 60% is your hope and your exercise, and 40% is the benefit of your practice. So the hope as well as understanding of what we are going to acquire with a confident move towards getting all of these things is the primary driver which we want to develop today. So memory is needed, and the problems with memory is, number one, we are having cognition and recognition. That is identification of places, identification of numbers, identification of persons, identification of sequential incidents. If you see somebody, if you see a dog, you can recall the green memory from your mind that it has voluntarily contributed some bitings to you before a few months. Whenever you see your friend, you can recall sequentially that he has gifted you some chocolates. Whenever you see the teacher, you can recall the fresh memories of how he has scolded you, crossing all vocabulary and dictionaries. So each and everybody has some sort of descriptive binding. What is descriptive binding? Each and everything is having three bindings. One is curious binding, second is incorporated binding, third thing is descriptive binding. Whenever you see something for the new time, as if you are hearing me now, there will be a curious binding. What will be the impact or what this fellow is going to do with us? So there is a curious binding. Whenever somebody is gradually appointed, incorporated binding. Whether the person is to be accepted or not, to record something, yes, we want. This should be the last time that we want this person. So these are incorporations. The third thing is a descriptive binding. So whenever you see somebody, immediately you see all connectivities. For example, you see your friend, you see the fresh memories of taking part in sports, giving and getting, sharing, examination marks, everything that comes. Descriptive memory is there. So all human beings, if there is a very great research on animal memory, in psychology, hippology, various other sciences are there. Hippology deals with the memory of psychohippology deals with the memory of horses. How they can travel to various places, how they can lead themselves to directions, spot analysis, spatial analysis, etc. Sinology or psychophysiology deals with the memory power of dogs. Personal recognition, smell recognition, or olfactory precision, which is called hyper olfactory precision, is there with the dogs. Like that, we should understand that even dogs, insects, they have more memory than us. But what is the difference between human being? Why is called as supreme? Because they are having developed memories because they could not develop. God has given basic crude memory or raw resources because of the only reason that we have the ability to develop the resources. So what is the difference? If there is a well-grown child in the form of a youth, what you can give? You can give 50 rupees and ask the fellow to go to a hotel and eat. If there is an infant, you cannot give the same thing to the infant and ask the infant to eat. So all the other species except human beings, they are in the stage of an infant, by reason which they have been given developed memories of spatial recognition, distance recognition, personal recognition, smell identification. All these very great things are given because of the only reason that they are infant in their sentience, in their conscience level. As human beings are very much super sentient in nature, they have been given a basic memory to understand the other memories, apply the other memories and use the same thing by self-implemental technology as well as external technology by using science and other methods. So you should understand that you are given the highest grade of memory in the world by creation, by which you can utilize everybody's memory. For example, dog is useful in investigation. And no doubt the nostrils of any investigation officer, maybe even the CBI director, may not be so punctual and perfect that of a dog. And the dog is in no way superior to the director. The dog has not the superiority of directing somebody, and the CBI director has the direction potential and utility potential of a dog. How you can utilize it for investigation? So, the purposeful trial and application knowledge which is the human beings, by which they can invent technology and tame the existing technologies for their utility and direction. So, human beings are very much great. The first thing. Second thing is, we are having memory in what we very much long to hear or long to experience. The first problem in memory, I already told, is we are given only the raw materials and they should be processed by means of self-information. We are having recognition. Somebody was brought to me and was reported that he is not having any memory at all. Then I asked him a question, who is this person? He told my father. So then I told that he is having that memory. Then cognition and recognition is a basic raw material of any human being. Is there anybody here who cannot go back to their houses? Who cannot recognize their own parents? The same basic raw material of memory of recognition of your parents, your place and your own thing, if somebody takes your pencil, the same brand of pencil may be with 10 or 15 people. Like the calf well identifies the mother in a crowd, you identify your pencil from a long distance and say that don't touch it. So you are having a memory of cognition and recognition which is not attributed to higher organized elements of learning. For basic learning and basic acquisition of just interpersonal movement in the society, it is being applied, it is not being prospered, number one. And number two is very interesting. We are having memory in various things where we have utmost urge and overwhelming desire. So whenever there is an exorbitant shower or stream of intentional wish, like cinema songs, like sports, like media information, lot of people are there more than a calculator, more than any directory, they have all informatics, media informatics, sports informatics, cricket informatics specifically. So there are people, those who are having all sequential and statistical knowledge in some other areas where they are having exorbitant shower and stream of intentional will or wish. So they are having memory, but the memory is attributed in areas where they have crossed the limitations of intentional wish. On specific things which may be non-productive, semi-productive or even disastrous we are having this thing. So memory exercises are nothing but diverting our memory which is already stored and applied in disastrous, semi-productive and non-productive measures towards productive and somebody connected with our own development and progress for which we are working. So memory exercises is not creation exercise, memory is not something to be secreted, memory is something that is to be diverted from other areas which are not going to help you as the education or some other thing is going to help. So from futility to utility, you have to divert the already existing, abandoned or captivated memory skill. So the memory skill is captivated under some other domain, it should be repatriated and re-registered in your productive, effective and efficacious will in education, in our profession, in nationalistic pride, in scientific and innovative temper, in technological upgradation. So we have to bring memory which is inside you in a different dimension, number two. And third thing is a very wonderful proverb of the memory science. They say that to develop memory, what you have to do is not to develop the memory. There are a lot of things which you have to forget, and forgetting the things to be forgotten, that clearly paves the way for a stable memory. So the third thing is, we are remembering a lot of unwanted things. So whenever you know that even in systems, whenever there are a lot of downloadings, whenever there are a lot of viral infection, the automatic desired application or operation of the system goes very slow. Or they are stagnated, or they are defiled, or they are deleted, we are seeing that. Our system is also like that. So the third problem with you is to totally throw away a lot of things which you have to forget. Though so many things are to be used for their own respective environmental action, they are known as interim collections or interim records. You are going for a grocery shop. You are having a list of items to be purchased. So the list becomes invalid after the things are purchased and after the things are taken inside, when you are nutritionalized, then whatever you have taken inside is immaterial. Like that, there are a lot of trivialized things, there are a lot of filthy things which need not be recorded at all, which occupy the major space of your mind, which you should throw away by few exercises which we are going to give today. So it is a very big journey, and at least 1/5 your caliber can be promoted, can be envisaged in a progressive direction with the exercises which you are going to give. So understand now that you have memory, but you have basic memory which you have not produced in such a high level or alpha level for your education. The second thing is already existing high-end memory is there now itself. You did not produce it, but they are diverted towards non-productive ends. The third thing is there are a lot of things which have to be erased, which still rules your mind. That preponderance of the unwanted things to be deleted should be done for the memory elevation, which automatically comes as a consequential grant. So these three things are the first golden rules of memory. And how to develop memory and how are all the systems of memory functioning inside, I want to hit within the few categorizations possible. Number one is casual entry. What is casual entry? For example, if you observe something Or if the same thing is observed by you, casually it enters. I used to say the story of a tea stall and a song which is daily put there. If daily at a tea stall the same song is being heard, whether you like that song or not, whether you understand the song or not, automatically it goes inside. So it is known as casual entry. This education syllabus should also be casual. How it is possible? Whenever the people enter inside the class, there should be a board. It is known as concept in projection board, CPB, which we used to call. We used to draw the diagram of a tree. We used to draw the diagram of a chart. We used to make it as a chariot or a parrot or anything which is easily drawable. It should not be a modern drawing which is more confusing than the syllabus itself. It should be a simple drawing wherein you can design the concept of things. For example, if it is sound, what is reverberation? What is vibration? What is sound frequency? What is equilibrium? What is pitch? What is tone? What is scale? What is melody? What is rhythm? What is synchronization? What is transverse? What is longitudinal wave? Everything is there in this syllabus. So you should draw the structure of your tree, wherein you give either alphabetical presentation or acronomical presentation or shrunk presentation. If it is a longitudinal or latitudinal, you can mention LO dot, LA dot. So it is more than enough. It is in T. Second, you can make alphabetical L1, L2 like that. The third thing is, you can even mention acronyms like VIBGAY or in physics books. You can mention the what do you want? Like that is known as acronyms presentation. So you can either present it as a hint, you can either present it as an alphabetical presentation, or like VIBGAY or WHO, UNESCO, UNICEF, there are acronyms in nature. You can make it as an acronym. So this type of conspicuous projection, till the lesson is over, the conspicuous projection unavoidably to be seen like a wall clock. It should be there in every classroom. So that whenever a person enters, goes, he cannot just withdraw his senses or optical vision or version from being subjected to that board which is very conspicuous, which is very decorative in nature. So that should be big and that should be descriptive in a diagrammatical way, not in a diplomatical way. And third thing is it should be colorful and attractive. It should be placed in such a locative predominance that people have to see. If it is hidden somewhere else or if it is kept in the back, nobody will see that. So make a proper thing like that, and each and everybody, a class, if we are going to conduct a particular section or subject, at least 2 or 3 days we take. One is for giving introduction. Second is for conservation of everything. Third thing is clarification. So that will be 3 sessions according to the traditional system of learning for teaching any class. So for these 3 periods or for these 3 sessions, at least they would have seen it for a umpteen number of times, which also serves as a proper gripping force and foundation of what we teach. So this type of entry is known as casual entry. Second is competitive entry. Whenever you say that this person can do that, but you should understand where competition is a nourishing manure and where competition is making a person to perish. If a person is already having inferiority complex, that's why we used to say teachers, they should not teach everything in the same manner, teach everybody in the same manner, teach every subject in the same manner. That is known as teacher. If everybody is considered and anything at any time is considered the same, any other same student can conduct the class more than the teacher. Why a teacher is required? Because he knows what to do, how much to do. That individualistic categorization which I am going to hint with few examples later, that is the greatness of a teacher, that is the power of a teacher. So we should know how competition should be made as a manual instead of being fatal to the child's complex in nature. So for people there should be a competition. Any person coming first will be given the prize, and any person not coming the first will be given second special opportunity where the price will be 2 times more. If 100 rupees, it should not be always monetary, that be a book or that be something that is connected with the intellectual progress. And if it is a single book for the first comer in the first session, in the second phase of transition, the first comer will get 2 books. So it makes a person, even the inferior person. So that will be 3 types of people in the society, which is there in the academic campus also. One is a person who thinks that he is inferior. Second is a person who does not consider himself as superior even if he is. Third is a person overshooting his superiority and being arrogant and dividend in the society. So the students are also having the imprint of these qualities, and teachers should know how competition can be evaluated as per the mental inclination of the student. It's not a competitive entry. Everybody should be having a competition. And this competition in the term of examination also competition between the students, but that is not so progressive. That is very much binding, and that is very much phobic in nature, cultivating fear and restlessness in the students. So there should be a healthy, entertainable competition which are to be mentioned and maintained in the classrooms. And the third thing is parallel entry. Whenever any person is going to study something, the teacher should describe that as a story or as personal experience. If somebody says that potassium and manganese, they created potassium permanganate, the teacher can narrate like this: I was just having potassium and the manganese was there, my child was playing, and automatically that mixed up, there was a violet solution. Then I thought, what is it? Oh, that was the potassium permanganate solution used by dentists also. So it is a story. So there should be self-subjective, descriptive, story-based, depictive and illustrative methodologies, which is known as parallel entry. Apart from the stuff of relaxation, the inner stuff of evaluation of the knowledge also automatically enters inside. So that is known as parallel entry. That is very much important. Parallel entry is very much to be suitable and designed for various students in various levels. And fourth thing is a repetitive entry, which is there with a lot of students. If in one way or in one term, if you could not do that, by repetitive exercises we can develop, we can see how we can get there. If in the first innings we could not get anything, second, third and fourth, we should try to get that knowledge that is known as repetitive in nature. Like that, there are innumerable entries which are there mentioned in the Shastras. Apart from the very great repetitive entry, there is serious entry. What is serious entry? Whenever you seriously read the things, 10 times more the absorption you get. Because whenever you are thinking is that it is unnecessary or immediately not necessary, only your peripheral mind works. You know that the peripheral surface of the ocean gets only salt. The inner place gets fishes and the deeper place gets that pearls. Like that, seriousness that deals with your inner mind so that you get more absorption. So we should teach the children how to get serious mind. And you should also teach them three things. One, serious, I told in one seminar that serious occasions are maintained, are meant for enjoying joy and sportive occasions to spend them. I told in a seminar that whenever people they want to play and be happy, we should say that if you are serious, you can gain more strength, then you can play with more happiness. So how to teach seriousness by positive and negative urge? Number one, if you get good marks, then you can just win in your race. It is very repetitive, like a parent have been told for centuries together. And negative urge is also there. You see, your family is struggling, they are having a lot of dreams. So considering the negativity or insufficiency of your environment as well as the positivity, you have to urge the people for seriousness. That is known as serious entry. What is compressive entry? It is by compressing the student to get the entry. You did not do that because for the days of examination, whenever the examination starts, everybody is going for auto compression. They compress themselves and see that it is thrusted inside like a book bill. Dust is kept inside a dust bill. All books and the book messages are thrusted inside without the will or understanding like a book bill. So all the student's mind becomes book bill at the time of examination. That is compressive entry, and there is a disintegrated entry. Whenever you think of a big coconut, you cannot just swallow it. You have to disintegrate into pieces or extract the juice out of it. Like that, knowledge also categorization. How to categorize that and how to make the stuff evaluation. Somebody should give a book and also a lesson so that we can do what is stuff evaluation. What is stuff evaluation? If you take a lesson, only 30% to 20% should be the stuff. All the other things are space fillers, grammatical conjunctions or any other subvital leaders. The real stuff, the vital elements or the vital connectivity will be only 20 to 30%. In non-details it may be 5 to 10%, history 15 to 20%, chemistry and biology it may be 30%. In mathematics it is only 10% because everything is an arithmetic progression. Only the basic structure is to be understood. That is there. And only in Vedas 100% you have to memorize and repeat the same, like Quran and Vedas. All the other syllabus, they have only 1/3 or 1/4 of the syllabus. So stuff evaluation is a part of disintegration. Categorization, I have already told how is acronymic synchronization of the subject by acronyms. If you memorize the acronyms, you can very comfortably read those things. They are known as disintegration exercises. So by means of disintegrative things also we can do that. Interim entry is there. Interim entry is we know what we want to know today and tomorrow we cannot reproduce anything. And exercise entry is there. What is exercise entry? By playing chess, by listening to music, by going to meditation, you can recuperate your educational will. That is known as what we call exercise or ancillary entry. And the final thing is willful entry. Daily you have to do 15 minutes of meditation, that I should have sturdity in my academic will. Whatever the zeal that I possess in mastery of my subject, you see, if you consider personal wish without any benefit, that is I am saying, if you are eating something, for example, somebody is eating pizza, is it for getting the benefit of pizza? Is it for promoting the pizza businessman? Or is it promoting the pizza industry in the world? Nothing but your personal taste, without minding the benefit or ill fit, without minding the progress or the degradation of your own status, exceptionally and exclusively towards your personal taste you are doing that. The whole controversial status is seen in knowledge. You don't have any personal taste in knowledge at all. If you are tasting pizza, you are not tasting the benefits of pizza or any other pizza connectivity except the pizza. Like that, if you are tasting the syllabus, nobody is interested in knowing what Newton, what Faraday has told. Nobody is interested. As they are compelled by teachers to read and write the same, they are developing some sort of bitterness which is to be considered as a sweetness by them for the sake of getting recognition in the form of award certificates and pass in the examinations. They are going to that. So how a teacher can create that type of sweetness that I already hinted, and exercises I have to say, that is the prime cardinal principle which we are going to say now. So these are the various entries that are there in the casual memory system that has been propounded by our ancestors. And there are three stages of memory. One is exhaustive memory, second is extensive memory, third is effective memory. What is extensive memory? Remembering everything is not a skill at all, because everybody will be remembering everything. And to produce the same thing whenever and wherever demanded is the skill of memory. And not only knowing things is memory, it should be extended towards action also. For example, in car driving, you may be knowing how to start the key, how to press the accelerator, how to use a clutch and brake, and how to handle the steering. Everything is memory. But the memory is not extended contextually as a skill of driving, considering the circumstances and their implementations. It is not going to be fruitful. So memory is only a part of skill. Memory need not be the fullest skill. And one more myth on memory is, without memory also we can function in the world, and even mere memory has no value at all unless it is extensive. What is extensive memory? The memory which is not only in the form of knowing things, with which you can also do the things, that is known as extensive memory. Exhaustive memory is a person remembering everything. Before 3 years you met at this place and you ate these things and you are wearing this shirt and pant. What is the use of such memory for that? These things are exhaustive, over-exhaustive memories. And the effective memory is with which you can meet the challenges. Timely reproduction is known as effective memory. Perfection and precision in performance is known as extended memory. Exhaustive memory is supernormal memory, which need not be a quality for all people. If somebody is having supernormal memory, no doubt we can appreciate them, but you should not think that everybody should be supernormal in memory. Normal memory is more than enough for functioning. And for your kind information, most of the successful scientists and technocrats, most of the people, they were having amnesia. Most of the people, they were having only selective knowledge within their own faculty. Most of the people, their memory has been eroded in the case of realizing their own house, realizing their own basic cognitions and recognitions were not there. Fourth thing, they also worked with various reference guides, and they also worked out with practical exercise and hard work. So most of the memory gurus or memory performance people, they are like memory magicians who are just for appreciation and applauding, not for any implementation. Most of the successful people are having only a workable memory. By means of working with the environment and other tools, how to produce the memory in a practical way, they have only effective memory and exhaustive memory. Exhaustive memory people are either seers or conjurers, intellectual conjurers, who perform lot of memory exercises, willpower and everything. It is not going to be a solution to the word at all. We want to develop such a memory which is effective in nature. And also I want to give you 5 golden rules and exercises for memory. Number 1, there are innumerable rules I have already told. The first thing is statistical approach, to know the numbers, years, times and other things. They need not be ever fresh inside the mind unless it is warranted. Second is sequential, how to present the order. That order should be memorized by us. That is known as sequential memory. Specification memory is to take something and to present the same thing exactly, like Vedas I have already told. If you quote somebody, you have to quote exactly what they have quoted. You should not add perfume to that. So that is known as specification memory. And fourth thing is solution memory. What is solution memory? They can solve the issue. They need not be having the statistics. Statistics they can download from the net and they can get from publications and other thing. But solution can be downloaded somewhere else? It is not possible. So solution memory should be the goal of everything. Anybody compressing themselves for specification or statistical memory, troubling them more for memorizing the years and other things, all other involuntary unwanted exercises, will lose the solution mechanism inside. And anybody capable of maintaining the both, they are welcomeable, but you should not sacrifice your solution mechanism. See, the memory that makes you, that tempts you work in such a manner that you solve the problem or you systematically handle the issue and perform the same thing systematically, that is more essential than that of statistical production. Most of the collectors are there. All the collectors, they are handling the district administration. Are they having everything in the memory? Not like that, but they are having the workable solution memory by which all the other information can be got from the inferior sub-authorities or subordinate people or from various other collectible sources. That is the first thing. So there are four dependents for you. One is reference, second is guidance, third is association, fourth is environment. Whenever you are exposed to the atmosphere, you can learn 25%. Everything need not be learnt. The traditional people say that don't try to learn everything because 25% of your knowledge can be automatically learned by your own environment. So the school should have 25% of environmental or atmospheric education, 25% of syllabus education, reference, 25% of guidance education, 25% of associative education should be there. And 75% whatever they are having now, 75% of referential education in the form of syllabus and stuff is a punishment in disguise to the students. So 25% is very simple, they can learn from the other things. 25% casually they should be allowed to gaze in their own inner minds and they can get guidance. And associatively they can be given, what do you think about that? You look on your own and give the feedback to us. That is more authoritative and that is more promotive to children. And casually, for example, just by making a museum hall, by making a theatre in which the names, specifications are there, I have already told, conspicuous projection. By conspicuous projection and environmental things like a campus tour, there is also a system known as a mobile campus. There is also something known as education tourism. By subjection inside any other multimedia presentation or virtual reality presentation or audiovisual education may be there more than enough to bring the atmosphere for making them learn more. And the third thing is suitable environment. Teaching environment is different from learning environment. Learning environment should be different from reproducing environment. Reproducing environment is different from challenging environment, then working environment, successful environment. Innumerable environments are to be designed. It is known as eco-fabrication or psycho-ecological engineering, whereby the mind can create its own circumstances or its own inner graphics or inner animation system that deals with the methodology of making its own ecology. That is also very much essential now. And there should be, I have already told, how to categorize the students on the basis of their involvement, number one, receptivity, number two, third thing is their physical, psychological and intellectual nature. In the joy of learning, the last lecture is there before we leave, day after tomorrow. In that we can discuss a lot of these things like that. How to understand the physical health. For example, point number one, basically iodine and magnesium, they are all the lubricators of learning. Whenever a person is having a cognitive load and pressure, that should be lubrication, just as there are in wheels, there are in even cases like gates, windows, everywhere. Wherever there is a motion, there should be a lubrication. Otherwise it will become noisy. Like that, there are a lot of irritators and perturbers of human cognition in our food also. Spicy food, oily food, taking more chili, stale food, canned food and untimely food. It create lot of things like sulfur, lot of things like chlorine, various other irritators in the form of various other enzymes which are very much pernicious to our intellectual coordination. They are very much secreted. So things like this over-calciation and fluorination as well as sulfurization, that creates lots of internal irritators instead of internal lubricators. So recently at Stockholm there was a conventional meeting where they arrived at the consensus before 4 years that the reason for the learning disabilities and performance disabilities in most of the schools as well as professional campus is nothing but iron, iodine and magnesium deficiency due to parental or maternal influence as well as uteral influence at the time of pregnancy, or even the more steroid and various other operations and injections that have been given at the time of the infant level of the children. And also malnutrition and over-fertilization of various crops that exist now. So, your personal problem is not only personal problem but reflection of global problem also. The fourth thing I want to say is professional or workable memory. That's what I wanted to ask everybody. I used to ask also. Whenever you see an advocate, no advocate is memorizing all laws. We have seen even the topmost senior advocates, not only in their own offices but also in the courts, they move only with the books. They move only with the books. All auditors, all doctors, all professionals, top professionals, even scientists, all administrators, they have references. Then at the studenthood, why they are compressed not to see the references and to write some books out of their own inner memory? What is the reason for that? Even if it is there, is it a proper parameter to gauge their particular memory status which is immediately fading after the examination is over? So there are two questions. If somebody is gauged, evaluated like that, is it assured, or are you considering that a particular date, particular timing and a limited syllabus, the presentation of the time is known as a perennial source of knowledge and memory for a person? Is it a parameter for a perennial existence of memory oozing inside the mind? No. Number two, is it practiced in the real activation and action domain? If you are becoming a doctor in MBBS examination, you are directly, seriously dealing with the exclusive issue only when you are practicing as a doctor. Which doctor remembers everything? Immediately he refers to the book, anatomy, physiology, pharmacology, pharmacopoeia. He refers. He asks the pharma representatives whether the medicine will work or not. In spite of being an MBBS and MD, he asks a person who is B.Pharm. So all the advocates are there. We have seen that they are referring to books. Whenever there is a confusion, they are referring to the book. Judges, they refer to the books in the presence of the advocates in the open court for clarifications. For even case numbers, if they say 193 CRPC, it is mentioned so the judge is not convinced. Any person having passed LLB with gold medal and also having practiced as an advocate for 30 or 40 years becoming a judge for a simple case number, in order to verify for more precision, she calls the book and they refer to the book and see even the case number and the case description whether it is precise or not. So, whenever you see working memory, we should understand that memory should be a casual entry. I have already told, memory is not an exercise. It is an automatic byproduct. Memory is a byproduct. Memory is the side effect of a healthy mind and intellect. Memory cannot be produced at all. If at once any person is healthy, naturally memory is an inherent reflex. It is an innate grant inside the mind which shows the healthy status of coordination of physical, mental and intellectual or cognitive health. So we should understand these things about memory. And number one, there are two types of memory exercises. One is to take you up. Second is to bring the syllabus and teach us down. All the people, they are teaching only the second way. If any subject is hard to you, then write it 10 times. And if anything, something is not coming to you, avoid that subject and take some other subjects. Whenever you are having selection authority in your higher secondary or something, avoid the subject. The third thing is go for tuition. So they are only making the methodologies of simplification. There are two methods. One is amplification, second is simplification. Promote you so that you can take anything. There are three teachers which we used to say. We used to say good teachers, great teachers, glorious or giant teachers are there. Good teachers are the people who chisel the rock and give it in small pieces. Giant teachers are the people, those who give you an axe so that you can chisel it and you can just take it in pieces. Great teachers or gifted teachers are such people, those who are giving you a power to widen your mouth to swallow that and digest it as if a cobra does with a goat or something else. You know the digestion of a cobra, it immediately swallows something. Its intentional juice is so effectual that it can totally micropulverize and intestino-synchronize All the organic stuff of a boat, irrespective of its turbidity, whether it is a bone or it is a beam or it is a skull, irrespective of its turbidity and its variation, everything will be micropolarized and usualized by means of the intestinal vigor of a cobra. So a gifted teacher is a person who can give you that courage by which you can swallow the subject, that is known as amplification. You have to improve your techniques of learning, that is one side, and second side is till you get that particular thing. As examinations are going to nearby March and April, you cannot maintain your own time for practicing cobra exercises at this emergent occasion. So we can go for simplification, and amplification is meant for some other areas for a long-term benefit. So number one, I want to say 5 mantras for amplification and 5 exercises for simplification. First thing is time management. I have already told in most of my lectures that 10 to 5, the school timings which are there in the modern trend, is the prohibited time in the Shastras. Whenever you are having chemistry, physics, biology and various other syllabus for which you are having your own respective classrooms, this first session is chemistry, second is physics, third is mathematics. It is something which is kritrima, that is artificially, that has been culled out and that has been schematized by you. But naturally in the brain, there is a physics period, there is a chemistry period, mathematics period, history period, languages period. So it starts with Katinatama, Katinatara, Katina Sulabhatama, Sulabhatara, Sulabha. These are all the classifications of the brain. So it starts with understanding, which is very much hard to understand. The evolution system is very much hard. Then is chemical equation. Third thing is physical derivation. Fourth thing is arithmetic progression. Fifth thing is sequential administration in history. Sixth thing is syntax, semantics and linguistic framework of languages. So these are all the classifications of the hierarchy in the descending order in complexity. Complexity is in the descending order. So starts with biological evolution where the names are different. Chemical equation where the valency and the equation symbols can be administered. Only the mutual distribution of the valency as well as the configuration is to be administered. That is very much simpler when compared to that of the evolution. So evolution is more complex. Second thing is equation. Third thing is derivation in physics. Fourth thing is arithmetic progression. So everything is diminishing in complexity. So it is a descending order. Then the fifth thing is coincidental sequentialization that exists in history. Who did, what he did, when he did and what was the happening. And the final thing is language, which is very simple. Unless a person is having a specific language fear known as Anglophobia, fear towards any special languages, or general lingophobia with any language, orophobia with speech, then also orthophobia with writing, stage fear or public staging fear, or public discourse fear. Innumerable things are there. Unless a person is having a specific phobia, this is the hierarchy, diminishing order of complexity in syllabus. So we should start in the early morning. According to that, there is a digestion period. You know, there is a season for even anything that you cultivate. But now the transgenic and hybridization facilities of modern technology that has created multi-seasonal and omni-seasonal crops. You can cultivate at any time, you can eat at any time, and you can suffer at any time. There is a provision that has been made available by modern science. Like that, now we are studying all syllabi at their own respective things as per the convenience of the school and your teachers and your learning systems. It is not so. The first system to be read is chemistry. So morning 4 to 8 is the learning time, evening 5 to 8 is the relearning time, and writing and other various mastication exercises are to be done in the middle. So the prohibited area of learning is from 9 to 4. So that is a school period. When they prohibited you to learn, the same period you have selected for learning, that is the first major hindrance in learning. So even we cannot change the school time, but at the time of your vacations while you are reading for your examinations, at the time of your own domestic practice or secular practice or group study, you can manage like that. First you have to start with chemistry. Before that, biology is the first thing. I have already told, biology is the first thing. Then it is with chemistry, physics, mathematics, history and languages you have to do in the morning. So this is the proper way of learning. This is known as time management. And second thing is impression psychology. What is impression psychology? Somebody was afraid of seeing the books. Because the book was, that is known as initial impression. If you are given a book for 300 pages, even there may be a lot of diagrams and a lot of empty space inside, there may be only stuff for 50 to 100 pages. By seeing the book itself, we are getting an initial fear. Some person was suffering to read one particular subject known as light or sound in physics. Then immediately I told him to make a Xerox copy of the particular lesson with 10 pages. You hold the 10 pages and read that. Then the person felt that it was very easier, which was not, because of the impression value. So whenever you take a very big book, you go through various pages and get into an initial decision or determination that this is very big and I am very small, I am not going to do that. With that as the initial prelude, with that as the preamble for studying, the person enters inside the book. That is the problem. So whenever he takes the Xerox copy, so whenever you want to study something, you take a Xerox copy of that particular lesson which is challenging to you and take that holding in your hand for reading. That is the second thing. Third is font magnification. Whenever you are reading books, you know that the small children, in the kindergarten books, you would have seen a book in which a letter is more bigger than the size of your paper even. Each and everything alphabetical. A, apple means A will be bigger than the apple itself. So for smaller children, they would have meant like that. Because of attraction. To get the attention of the child and also to attract the child, it is made. Even though you are not children, you should not make like that, but that should be a font size of 14 to 16. Because whatever I am saying is simplification. If you are really knowledgeable, you can read even a micro syllable or even a micro cryptic code. But that is something for a long-term process. So immediately I am saying the font size that gets into 3 attentions of you. That is 3 works you are doing. One is observation. Second is assimilation. And third thing is retention. So these 3 things you do, spending 2 units of energy for each approximately. Whenever the letters are in greater font size like 14 and 16, the entry is directly with the assimilation of the things without having attention and observation or other things. So you reduce at least 1/5 of your risk to memorize all of these things. So whenever you lesson that is risky to you or at least a portion that is challenging, if the font size is increased, immediately you can get 3 marks. So whatever I am telling you is worthy of only 2 and 3 marks fragmentally. Totally that will contribute to 50 marks, and it is enough if you have half the list that you are undertaking now. This is the third exercise. Fourth exercise is known as vociferation and self-writing or self-designing. Whenever you just read or work with a lesson inside your workbook or in your lesson book or school book, more than that, if you write the same lesson by your handwriting and if you are reproducing it, you have learned it 5 times. Whenever you are writing something, you are reading it before you write, you are reading it while you write, you are reading it for verifying whether you have written well or not, you are approaching it for reading more, and after reading it along with the letters, you are reading it for the 5th time. So you are reading it 5 times at the time of vision, at the time of verification, at the time of clarification, then approach and exercise. 5 times you are reading. So any lesson, it should not be a verbatim reproduction. The essence of the lesson should be written by you. If it is 5 pages, 1 page of the essence or abstract of the lesson should be written by you at the time of which it is penta-invigorated. 5 times it is potentialized. So this is also one more exercise which we can do. And the 5th thing is I have already told, stuff evaluation. You take a book. For example, if somebody can give a book today or tomorrow, I can create a genetic tree or a conceptual road mapping or stuff evaluation for that and give it as an exemplary model on the basis of which the teachers can teach them or the students can self-learn by themselves. So whenever you make stuff evaluation, you are getting the workload very reduced because the real vitality of your stuff is very small. Just as you have seen a lot of candies that are sold in the exhibition. Some candy is there, it is known as blow-up candy or balloon candy, it will be bigger like this. It has been blown to the size. If you compress it, it won't be bigger than this. So like that, it is also having a prospective way of compression. That is known as summarization. Without losing the context, without losing the contents, it should be there. And the final exercise I want to say is writing exercise. You see, more than your knowledge of knowing things and also reiterating the same thing whenever demanded, writing is a different skill. Most of the people, they successfully fail in the examinations because of their inability to cope up with this speed. Number 1 is, you have to write within the 3 hours. Number 1. Number 2, you have to write everything in order. Third thing, you have to write it neat and legible. So you have to maintain also the legibility of writing. So if you want to write everything, you have to write fast. If you write fast, it won't be legible. If you are fast writing, the mind may not cope up with the speed of your writing. You will forget the points or their orders at least. So there is a mutual congruity between these things. One is speed and sequence. There is a conflict. Speed and legibility, there is a thing. If you want legibility and the contextual sequence, time is a major conflict. So there are three conflicts in examination, and there should be a proper writing methodology. How to overcome these three conflicts. So what we have to do, we have taught a very special process. What is that? You make your own self-examinations of writing the same thing. I have given some 2 or 3 lessons for people to write the examinations for 6 hours with 2 intervals. After 1 month of writing 2 or 3 examinations, the second same examination they could complete in 5 hours, then 4 hours. So, a 6 months of practice of writing apart from reading, starting from the academic inception in the month of June. You should not practice in the month of February and March. Starting from the month of June, if you can practice for 6 months, at least writing for 6 hours, having all the things, legibility and neatness in handwriting is there, no omission is there, everything is orderly presented, it is well structured within the time frame of 6 hours. Then gradually, in the 6 months, they could complete it in 1.5 hours. After successfully capable of completing in 1.5 hours, writing for 3 hours is like paradise. It is an experience of paradise. Any person who can conclude in 1.5 hours in a very successful manner can take it as a very great sports like swimming and horse riding and can enjoy the occasion of examination. Examination is an entertainment for people who have practiced this legibility, contextual orderliness and presentation, as well as time from efficiency and sufficiency. For these people, it is a very great entertainment. And I will chant few mantras and finish this issue. And the further expansion for the mantras with explanations will be given in the second session. Are you wearing? Nobody is wearing shoes, but socks. You are wearing. You have to remove your socks also. Then you can wear it later. मेधाये नमः मेधासि मेधा स्वाहा मेधा स्वाहा बलमसि बलाय नमः बलमसि बलं मेधा स्वाहा वीर्यमसि वीर्याय नमः वीर्यमसि वीर्यं मेधा स्वाहा प्रज्ञासि प्रज्ञायै नमः प्रज्ञासि प्रज्ञा मेधा स्वाहा ओम स्मृतिरसि स्मृत्यै नमः स्मृतिरसि स्मृतिं मेधा स्वाहा ओम प्रतिभासि प्रतिभायै नमः प्रतिभासि प्रतिभां मेधा स्वाहा ओम वीर्यमसि ओम वीर्याय नमः वीर्यमसि वीर्यं मेधा स्वाहा ओम ज्ञानाय नमः श्रुत्यै नमः स्मृत्यै नमः धृत्यै नमः भूत्यै नमः वृद्ध्यै नमः वृद्ध्यै नमः गत्यै नमः प्रगत्यै नमः शांताय नमः उद्योगिने नमः योगिन्यै नमः पयस्विन्यै नमः ऊर्जस्वत्यै नमः अमृताय नमः सत्याय नमः शक्त्यै नमः बुद्ध्यै नमः यष्ट्यै नमः पुष्ट्यै नमः तुष्ट्यै नमः सते नमः महते नमः नित्याय नमः परस्मै ज्योतिषे नमः ब्रह्मणे नमः हरि ओम. I have given 5 exercises. They will give you 5 to 3, 15 marks minimum, more than what you have got and what you ought to receive. And this mantras, they will provide you 25 marks. More involvement in reading. If you can continuously concentrate for only 10 minutes in your classroom or concentrate in your books while learning for examinations in the classroom or public examinations, if you can concentrate for 10 minutes, you can concentrate at least for 20 minutes. And gradually, hours of concentration will be conveniently possible without any physical or inner strain. So more involvement. If you can understand or grasp 100 units of knowledge input in 1 hour, it will make you to get 200 inputs. And within the 100 inputs, if you can present only 25 to 30 inputs at the time of examination, amidst that 200, you will be able to reproduce 125 to 150. So in all ratios of your attention, of your ability to hold insight and ability to reproduce, you will be accelerated in more ways to get more promotion style. These things, as you are very new to Mantra Shastra and as the small children, they have to get a longer way for practicing mantras, yoga and other exercises. This thing is just an introductory exercise. The more opportunities, the knowledge imparting, if the gap between the first morsel and second morsel is 1 or 2 days in your daily food, how a person can be healthy? Like that, I come once in 2 years here and conduct 1 hour of classroom. How it will be so efficacious and how it will be so delicious for all of you, because when you understand what knowledge is, I will be crossing Pune in my flight. So before I could make the relishable, so whenever you give the foundation is not relishable at all. The more you peel off the things, because you will be having a bitter coverage, then knowledge, if you peel off, there will be a sour coverage. Second, there will be a salty coverage. The third thing, there is an insipid coverage. Then there is a sweetness of knowledge. Madhu Purnam Antastriktati, so says the Shastra. So the divine knowledge has something different. Bitterness, sour taste, salty taste, and insipid nature, that is tasteless nature, inside which there is absolute mellifluity of divine wisdom. So before I could peel off each and everything, you could see only the bitterness and sourness and other things in the dimension of knowledge. Before you could be reveal that particular dimension which you are to receive, then there is a very great time gap between, a millennium time gap between the first and second morsel of my feet towards you. Unless there is a proper syllabus, having also consecutive morsels of feet for continuous shower of salubrity inside you, that should be provided by making a syllabus and teaching the teachers who are available here. You are getting only the peripheral benefits. I at least love and also wish and bless you to get the fullest dosage of this knowledge nutrition by converting these part-time lectures as whole-time syllabus. It is not a part-time thing, it is a whole-time syllabus. It should be incorporated as a pioneer for each and every institution that lies in the land of Bharat. It should come as an exemplary model and pioneer in that thing. I wish and bless that it could happen soon. And I also congratulate the students for their participation and patient hearing. And also, even if they are impatient, even if they are involuntary, or even if they are not so attentive, the natural blessings of anybody's speech that will penetrate inside the ears, it is having its own involuntary action, whether you relish it or not, whether you decide it or not, whether you believe it or not, whether you understand it or not. Spiritual message is always a powerful inscription. Without minding your level of cooperation and grade of understanding, it auto-penetrates inside your soul and invigorates you. You are all blessed. You are all specially ornamentalized by means of a divine tool for implementing your knowledge exercises and examinations more precisely and successfully. I wish that it should continue and be everlasting in your life in all dimensions. Narayana, Narayana.